This has surprised me. Well done, GGG. You have successfully taken parts of my soul, my marriage, and time away from my kids. Yes! Got him! Got him again! Let's talk about Path of Exile 2. What makes it a great game, what really needs changing, and all the stuff in between. Path of Exile 2 is a game that has some really strong strengths, some really big weaknesses, but I think it's a great foundation. And I just say up front, this game has turned me into a degenerate. The amount of times I've been in the doghouse, my 2-week Christmas break, which was spent with family, and as soon as I got back from the family, straight into the game, to the point where I'm getting in trouble. I'm waking up in the morning, walking past the kids, and being told, don't go into your room and close the door. So that attests to how much of a good game it really is. I think the foundation's there. It's addictive. I've been playing Path of Exile 2 since launch. I've got 4 characters. Right now I'm playing a level 92 Ice Strike Monk, Invoker Ascendancy. Let's start with what I think really works well from the game. First off, it's Path of Exile. It's deep, it's complex, it's got lots of parts working together, from the skill tree to your gems to your ascendancies and so on. You can level, there's so much gamba involved. It's fun, you're always chasing the next piece of equipment, the next stage, the next something, and it just draws you in and traps you. At the moment, myself, I'm going for that really nice belt, ingenuity and things like that. I just don't have the divines. I'm not an experienced ARPG player. I started playing Path of Exile 1 several months before this, and I was totally sucked into that world. So secondly, it's a modern game. It's not just the graphics, but the graphics, the animation, the controls, the feedback. It feels like you're actually smashing things. It's just a great experience overall. There's attention to detail, characters in the story, throughout the acts, and in the gear, etc. It's just lovely to play. It's a modern experience. The sound is unbelievable. I think that the sound is far better than Path of Exile 1, as well as the music. I think they've done really well in this space, and it really draws you in. In terms of the acts, Act 1 is my absolute favorite act. Act 2 and 3, I find they get more drawn out, a bit too long on the levels there towards the end of each act. Some of the endgame mechanics are really good. I think Breach feels quite good. I'm not sure that Expedition is, but they've simplified it in the right way. 1 currency to reroll, and just 1 currency for ROG and 2 yen, etc. So I think that some things have been simplified well. There's a lot of mess that's hung around from Path of Exile 1 they've been able to get rid of and simplify without making the game simple, which I love. There's also a bit more usability than the prior game. Things like in the maps, you get told where to go. There's a plus icon if you're going to get something good from a quest. This stuff is invaluable. I like the system where in maps, it says do X amount of maps to get these rewards, and you keep following them, and it's clearer than it can be in some other games of Path of Exile 1. I quite like that. And before I get into the negatives, can I just say, everyone's always going to give more feedback on the negatives. The reason we give strong feedback on the negatives is because we love the game so much, we want to see it fixed. And by the way, it is just that good of a game. Let me start on some of the negatives. 1, the balance of classes. This is my 4th character in Path of Exile 2. I started as a warrior, and let's just say I resigned. The warrior, he quit his career. He basically retired in Act 2. He had enough of trying to slog all the big bosses and just standing in their faces, and he just had to wear everything. So it wasn't the best experience. I then tried a mercenary, which was a lot better and easier. However, I personally, just a playstyle thing, don't like the delay. Even if you minimize it, I don't like the delay of grenades. I was hoping to use mercenary without grenades, and I didn't find a way that was super powerful to do that. So I then swapped to a monk, which I absolutely loved. The balance, you can see, it's just not there between classes. The warrior versus the monk, to me, it was incomparable. And takes me to my next topic, is crafting. Crafting is abysmal. There is no crafting. In Path of Exile 1, even in my limited time, I went all the way. We're crafting with the crafting bench. We're crafting with, of course, the currency. We're crafting with the Horde crafting. We're crafting with veiled orbs and divines, blocking prefixes and suffixes. We're doing proper crafting. And even if they got rid of just half of those means, it would have been fine. Even if they got rid of 70%. But to get rid of everything and just leave some of the currency, to have no way, for example, to undo items, whether it's a scouring orb, to have no way to re-roll items, to not be able to replace runes, all this sort of thing. It's just gamba and then you're stuck with it. To just not have a crafting bench. I believe this will change. I believe it. And even if you want to make it tougher, sure, but have some crafting in there. Don't make it gamba, because right now it's pick up a base, run something on it, hope for the best. It doesn't work. Run some chaos if you can find them. Maybe throw it in the Reforge, which I find is a horrible mechanic. I don't know what you guys think, but the Reforge, it sometimes produces something. I've heard that if you have the same affixes on each item, it has a chance to roll that affix at a higher tier. Fine, I have hardly ever seen it. I've seen it once, and even then it wasn't that great. So I've been doing it a lot, guys. I have spent countless hours, exalts, and chaos orbs just trying to craft and using that Reforge, and just everything is just not where it should be. Also, let's talk about lack of clarity. I talked in the pros about there is more clarity. There's definitely more clarity in questing, knowing which quests give you what value, like passive points when you can see the little plus icon. There's definitely more clarity in early parts of maps and in some parts, but it's still lacking clarity in many areas. Let me give you some examples. In the skill tree, you just don't understand what everything means. Some things have tooltips, some things don't. I mean, I even had a new player who's a better gamer than me, but new to Path of Exile. Very surprised on stream when he realized that adding rare modifiers to a monster, for example, actually can give you better drops. It did not say that anywhere from what he could see, and I realized, wow, it really just is lacking the explanations half the time. Then there's things like, you know, there's still a bit too much complexity inherited from Path of Exile 1. There's no need, in my opinion, for elemental weakness, elemental penetration, max resistance is reduced. There's just too many things going on in some areas, and it's confusing. Armored enemies as an example. How much are they armored? What's the number? Give me something, Path of Exile. Give me something. Then let's talk about layouts. The areas in acts are too big, in my opinion. It feels like I'm running in quicksand for some of the acts. They're just long, and that translates into the maps. Remember I said it better not be that corner? Look at that. It's that corner. This game has a knack. The areas can just be very big, but that's not my main complaint about the maps. With maps, my complaint is the layouts. Can I just say the layouts are horrid? GGG, please fix them. In an effort, I can understand GGG, in an effort to make it more difficult and challenging, the terrain is split, but I'm not talking about corridors. I'm talking about when you're outside and there's higher levels than you and you can't get to them, and there's little islands in the middle of everywhere, like craters in the middle of the map you just can't get to, and you're trying to run mechanics and breaches and do whatever, and it is frustrating, and there's no need for that. Please, those should be 5% of the maps, not 40-30% of the maps. Now, Chaos Res, I don't know, I found it super hard to cap Chaos. I went Chaos Inoculation, which is where you're immune to Chaos, but you forgo your life and your energy shield becomes life. But honestly, I just found it simpler. A lot of players are doing the same. I never felt a need to do that in Path of Exile 1. It's just such a pain. It goes back to the crafting, I believe. Map sustain has been an issue for me. I think I've gotten over it a lot. I mean, I can just run lower tier maps and run for towers, try to get the right modifiers, try to get the bosses to drop more maps, but it does feel like kind of a bit of a pain, albeit it's not the biggest problem in the world. The problem is the combination of only having one go at maps, and if you die, you lose the map, the mechanics, you lose the loot on the ground, you lose 10% XP, and there are on-death effects, so you kill a boss and then they kill you if you stand around them. On-death explosion? Oh, yeah, that on-death shocked me. It's just horrible. I won't go on about it. So many other players already have, and it's old news, but something's got to give. I wouldn't say one thing is more of a problem than the other. Perhaps on-death effects, gone. But besides that, still something else has got to give. Give us more portals. Do something else. Just find a way, please, GGG. Another huge point is at the end game. It's such a grind to get to the real end game. I've got this burning monolith. I haven't even found the fragments. You can find it by lots of people, lots of streamers, lots of people on YouTube explaining that they went for weeks to try to find in an obscure and unclear and randomized manner all these fragments for all these fights, and they spent so long. And then they had one death because you're supposed to have memorized the mechanic, and then you die and have to start all over again. That cannot stay. In my mind, that has to go. Something has to change. It cannot be that much of a grind. Otherwise, I'll be honest with you, stuff the end game. I'm going elsewhere. And last but not least, and not everyone's going to agree on this for sure, this is going to cause a bit of a divide, is I don't want everything nerfed. You know that saying, fear of missing out? I feel like there's fear of nerfing out. We need to come up with a new saying, guys. It's just the fear of the nerf, maybe. So I just am so petrified that now I'm playing Monk, and because some people are saying it's overpowered, that GGG is going to nerf everything into the ground. I just think GGG has to discover their own way how to make the game enjoyable to a variety of audiences. If you nerf everything, the game will become like another Souls-like. And I would just be honest here, this is where there's the divide. I will not be playing that kind of game. I will go to a Souls-like for a Souls-like. This is an ARPG. I'm not saying you need to be able to one-shot the bosses. I'm not saying playing broken things. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that every time something appears, like when you can work hard for it and get it at 90 plus levels to a good state, you should be able to do that, like Path of Exile 1. Now, the big divide is some of you will say, no, that's what Path of Exile 1 is for. Let's make Path of Exile 2 harder. And I respect you for your views, and I respect that you're probably great gamers, but that's not my opinion. That's not the way I enjoy a game. I need some freedom to go from 0 to hero. And that's what I want to see in the game. I get the sense it's there with Monk. I get the sense it's there with some characters. Sure, you can taper things down. You can make some things harder to get. No problem, I understand that. I've got no problem working harder for stuff, but it still has to be there. That big goal has to be there. The great uniques have to be there. That killer character has to be there. Something to work hard towards. What do I think overall of the game? The game is the masterpiece of a foundation, an early access foundation, and more than I thought it would be. Huge wins, glaring problems. GGG has the expertise, they have the motivation, they have the skills to fix them and surprise us all. This has surprised me. Well done, GGG. And you have successfully taken parts of my soul, my marriage, and time away from my kids. It is what it is, as they say. See you, folks.